Have you ever been sitting around wondering, yeah, Godzilla is the greatest kaiju of all time, but is he any good at basketball? Well, if that was you for some reason, you're in luck, because in 1992, Nike and Dark Horse Comics answered the question maybe no one had asked. Today, I'm diving deep into the history of how the battle of the century came to be. In today's episode is Godzilla versus Barkley. Hello, loyal viewer. I'm Chris here at Cheddar Comics, a lifelong comic book fan and collector on a mission to tell the story of comic books through my storytelling. And since the first time I set eyes on this comic last year, I had to know more. Like, why? And how? And really why? Godzilla versus Barkley. Not Godzilla versus Rodan or Godzilla versus Mothra. You've seen all that before. Godzilla versus Charles Barkley. How did this weird and odd beauty enter our world of comics? Let's dive in and find out. Godzilla vs. Barkley was released by Dark Horse Comics in 1993.
The comic was second. Talk about the commercial.
Who is that? My research department?
Yeah, the comic was second. First there was the commercial, released by Nike in 92.
Okay. Let me check my script here. Script. Oh. Research, you're right. Looks like the research department is correct. I had no idea. Well, let's look into the commercial by Nike first, and we'll come back to the comic. Before the comic in 1993, we must go back a year earlier to 1992, where Nike was going to make a new basketball sneaker that would feature NBA All-Star Charles Barkley's face. And they wanted to create a commercial that would be released in Japan only. And who else could be in your Japanese commercial besides, well, of course, Godzilla? Toho Studios, who owns Godzilla, was having a good year with Godzilla, the release of a new movie, Godzilla vs. Mothra.
国際式の大決戦 Godzilla vs. Mothra.
A children's educational television series called Godzilla Land. A Nintendo video game, Godzilla 2, War of the Monsters. So licensing out Godzilla was in full swing at Toho Studios. For Nike's 30-second ad, they brought in Industrial Light and Magic. Yes, the studio created by George Lucas for Star Wars to help bring this commercial to life. They used traditional methods of a large-scale city and a man inside a Godzilla suit. Fun fact, the cityscape you're seeing was used on Ghostbusters 2 and reused for this. The commercial was intended only for Japanese audiences, but once it was complete, Nike executives loved it so much, they decided to release it for American audiences as well. They hyped up the commercial for months with a trailer released during the 1992 NBA All-Star Game.
He's defeated Mothra. He's defeated King Kong. He's defeated Monster Zero and Mechagodzilla. But he's never faced an adversary like this. Godzilla versus Charles Barkley. It's the battle of the century, and it's coming soon. Get ready to see a real monster jam.
They created a poster of the matchup, and they even set a premiere date for the commercial during the 1992 MTV Video Music Awards. So without further ado, here's the commercial.
Lakers are looking looking for a big man?
Comment below if you think that is the most absurd piece of Godzilla media you've ever seen, or if it is the best piece of Godzilla media you've ever seen. The commercial was a huge hit for Nike, and they wanted to keep that momentum rolling, so now enter the 1993 one-shot comic book by Dark Horse Comics. It features cover art by Dave Dorman, whose art you might recognize from Star Wars Dark Horse comics such as Star Wars Dark Empire and Tales of the Jedi. The comic was written by Mike Baron, who has countless credits in the comic industry such as The Punisher and The Flash. He is also the creator of The Badger and the co-creator of Nexus with artist Steve Rude. The interior art was done by Jeff Butler, whose credits also include The Badger, but also Marvel Superheroes, the role-playing game. But oddly, the plot by credit, as you see here, is named as Alan Smithy, which is a pseudonym normally used by Hollywood directors to disown their own film. So it appears someone was unhappy with their work or wanted to remain anonymous. The comic had more work to do than the commercial, as it had to expand on a 30-second ad spot with no story. So how do you get these two titans in the same place and the same size to play basketball? Let's take a look inside. Opening on the coast of California, no longer Japan, Godzilla emerges from the ocean. Cut to a boy named Matthew and his grandfather as they bump into Charles Barkley, shooting a commercial on the beach. Matthew tries to get through his security, stating he's Barkley's biggest fan, and gets turned away. Matthew's grandfather tries to cheer him up by giving him a silver dollar he claims has magical properties. At that moment, a man washes up on shore, warning Godzilla is coming. And boom! Godzilla comes out of the sea and the beach erupts in chaos. Matthew says he can use the magic silver dollar to stop Godzilla by getting to Charles Barkley. He tells Barkley he's Earth's greatest warrior and only he can stop Godzilla's rampage. And Barkley agrees and says you may have a point there. They take a ride in Barkley's car as Godzilla rampages. Barkley doesn't know how he can stop the monster. Matthew suggests he doesn't care about Godzilla's rampage and they should play a game of hoops for the silver dollar. Again, Barkley agrees and Matthew flips the coin only for it to land on its side. And when Barkley picks it up, he suddenly grows 300 feet tall. Now that he is the same size as Godzilla, Barkley challenges him to a one-on-one game of basketball and lures Godzilla outside the city. He brings him to an Air Force base as spectators gather to watch the once-in-a-century matchup. Right about that. Godzilla scores first points with Barkley coming back and scoring twice on the legendary kaiju. Godzilla grows frustrated and melts the basketball with his heat blast. Barkley reprimands the monster and says, "You just need the right attitude and the right equipment, and I know some people that could help you make some shoes." Now in a canyon in Utah, Godzilla is wearing 13,000 Triple E sneakers, and Barkley tells him to do 1 million layups to practice and that he'll check up on him in 100 years. Then there's this panel, which to me is iconic. You may have seen it around TikTok or Instagram, on Facebook. You see it all the time. After saying goodbye to Godzilla, Barkley flies back to California to return the silver dollar to Matthew. The end. This was a lot of fun to research. A lot of fun to have an excuse to watch a bunch of weird Godzilla stuff, especially about a book I found out about only a couple years ago. Is this making it onto your want list and hunting list? Let me know below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and make sure you follow me on Instagram, where as of this video, I'm doing weekly live sales every Thursday selling comic books. Thank you so much for your time and your eyeballs. I appreciate you so much. Much love to you, and I'll see you next time.